Hello, I'm Bholanath Das, Doctoral Fellow, School of Humanities, KIT, deemed to be University, Bhubaneswar. I'm going to present a paper in this international conference. The name of my paper is Locating Ecofeminist Perspectives in Third World Indigenous Women, a study in select works of Mahasweta Devi. And let me introduce what is ecofeminism. In the slide, you can see ecofeminism or ecological feminism, a term coined by the French feminist Francoise Ibone, is an interdisciplinary movement and a philosophical discourse that perceives issues related to environment in terms of gender differences. It is a feminist intervention into environmental context. So, a paradigm shift from androcentric to ecocentric. Patriarchy as polluting force is debated in ecofeminism. Indian representations of historic ecofeminist movements, the Chipko movement, Ganga Mukti movement, Narmada Chao, contributing to the canon of global feminist literature. And the theory of ecofeminism by Vandana Shiva, a well-known Indian. Her works, Ecofeminism, published in 1993, and Staying Alive, Women, Ecology and Development, speak of feminism and ecology connected to each other. Emancipation of women not possible without preservation and cultivation of both nature and female identity. Development without nature is maldevelopment. Then ecofeminism identifies the marginalized and exploited woman with nature, which, like women, is alienated and exploited by the current anthropocenic practices. Conceptualization of ecofeminist ideas through fictional narration enables the writers to visualize the image of destruction and exploitation of nature, women, and other beings. What is indigenous identity? Very important point. The term indigenous includes First People or First Nations, Aboriginal people, ethnic or Adivasi or Janojati. There are hunter, food gatherer, nomadic or semi-nomadic people, hill tribes or peasants related to the occupation of geographical positions. The basic features upon which indigenous identity is formed can be best understood through the evaluation of factors that form the identity. And major constituents of indigenous identity, let me read out. Communal identity, land means life, self-determination, self-identification, imposition of ecological and traditional knowledge, a distinct culture and belief system, autonomous socio-political and judicial system, progress with nature and culture. And who are the indigenous people across the globe? The indigenous people, for example, are called Lokata in the USA, Mayas in Guatemala, or the Ayamaras in Bolivia, the Sami of Northern Europe, the Aborigines and the Torres Strait Islanders of Australia, the Maori of New Zealand, and Adivasis, the tribal people of India. Indigenous people are sometimes called native or original too in the land they live in. They are the descendant of the people who lived in that land from the very ancient time or before the invasion of the colonial rule, before the formation of the present territory or state. Third world indigenous, the concept of third world, the title is given. So what is this? European colonization has marginalized the first peoples in countries such as India. In remote regions, still the homes of large Aboriginal Indian legacy remain strong. So agriculture is the most important activity in the third world. Most small farmers are women. In these third world countries, Aboriginal women's work and livelihoods in sustenance, of agriculture, for example, they're based on management of the biomass or fodder, fertilizer, food, fuel, etc. Means basically the third world countries, indigenous women depend on agriculture. And then some works of Mahasweta Devi. Mahasweta Devi is an Indian author. Some of her literary works are Hajar Churasir More, Ma Rudali, Aronne Rudhikar. She worked for rights and the empowerment of the tribal people like Lodha and Savar, West Bengal, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, the states of India. She was honored with various literary works. And let us discuss some of her works. Breast stories consisting of 3 short stories. Draupadi, Behind the Bodies, and Breast Giver, The Witch, The Hunt, The Book of the Hunter. Well, in the Book of the Hunter, it discusses the formation of ecoliterate communities amongst Hovo tribals. Tejota creates a fictional bioregion through her ways of interconnectedness with their nature goddess Abhaya. Savors are against the androcentric and hierarchical structure community of Arahara to bring in the concept of the ecologically abusive culture of the Indian mainstream society. Sour ways of seeing Abhaya, their goddess as a creator and protector of the interworld, can be likened and or can be linked to the ecofeminist mother goddess of creation and protection. Devi points out that unlike the main culture that worships and venerates the forest goddess, Adivasi culture sees Prakriti, forest, as an active being like them, and chides and talks to her like a being close to them. They see her in the living entities of the forest. See, in another work, Sikar, The Hunt, Devi's Sikar, translated by Gayatri Chakraborty's works, The Hunt, and included in the collection Imaginary Maps, is also here the exploitation of nature and women, the manipulation of a tribal woman, indigenous tribal woman, and the destruction of the salt forest here becomes a sort of rhetoric of that politics of discrimination that supports, sustains the stereotypical binaries between nature, culture, and man-woman that have been designed and maintained by the bourgeois nationalist elitism at the cost of the relentless revilement of the dispossessed other. Well, the revengeful murder of the Telsinder Singh by Mary towards the end of the story, The Hunt, becomes a manifestation of Devi's resistant aesthetics in this violent as voice against gender oppression and annihilation of the physical environment. And Daini, the female tribals are doubly denigrated and exploited, not only by gender discrimination but also by the capitalist and patriarchal Indian society, as women are traditionally regarded as a field and men as a seed. Somri, branded as a Daini, the central character of the witch, strongly felt much safer in the forest. The Daini began to run towards the forest. She personifies nature as an empathetic protector and refuge in distress. She hid herself in the jungles to escape from the judgmental, stereotypical notions of the society. Well, we're getting closer to the end. And another source is Draupadi or Daulati, the bountiful, the short stories that represent the next stage of the conflict, wherein no more virgin forests are left for the tribals, for the indigenous people to settle down there. Well, gradually we're heading towards another story, breast giver. Here the Joshoda became professional mother by hire who breeds yearly in order to keep the milk flowing in her breast. And she suckles 20 of her own children and 30 children of her employer's family. So she also belongs to this category of people. She lives to satiate her husband, whose lust drills her body like a geologist in a darkness lit only by an oil lamp. Both Joshoda and Mother Earth are often being bruised and abused, and they are suffering victims of men's contemptuous lust and greed. Well, we are almost at the conclusion. So Master Devi says, I don't want to be cremated after death. Instead, I wish to be buried at Tejgarh in Gujarat, and the Mahua sapling should be planted here, as I'm very fond of Mahua trees. According to Devi, human beings come from the earth and they do not give anything back to her. So I wish to give my body back to the earth to get it fertilized, as in the case of an organic farming. So my paper here concentrating on locating ecofeminist perspectives in the third world. Indigenous women refers to the tribal, the first peoples, the Adivasis. I'm here giving a study in select works of Master Devi. Thank you very much. Here I end my presentation. Thank you very much.